Florence.
And this is Mark Florence.
And today we're talking about the movie called Swallow. This came out in 2019. I hadn't heard of it yet, but Mark saw an article about it or something, and we looked it up. It was 91% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, and people are loving this movie.
Yeah, I was just perusing yahoo.com in the quarantine, work from home, nothing to do. Not during work hours, by the way. And I saw this article about this movie Swallow. It said it's like a good horror movie, so I told Kelly about it, and we watched it.
Yes. Now, it's starring this actress, and we knew we recognized her, and we had to go down the IMDb rabbit hole, and her name is...
Haley Bennett.
And she's from Girl on the Train, so she's recognizable, and she was amazing. So, and then her husband, somebody who we talked about recently, because we saw Fantasy Island, he was in Fantasy Island and Dolphin Tale. And his name, Mark, you just had it there. Tell me again.
Austin Stowell. So
there you go. Now, they've got some money. We were trying to figure out where this house is. You were thinking Pacific Northwest at first, but then we found out it was where?
No, I said Northeast.
Okay.
I thought it looked like Boston, Massachusetts area, but it was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
It's a very nice house. And they have a pool. She was like scooping out fall leaves out of it. And what I would give to have a pool, wouldn't that be amazing? An indoor pool would be even better because you wouldn't have to do all the scooping of, stuff that's going to fall into it.
I'd rather have an outdoor pool just because you can be outside swimming. But, especially in Pittsburgh, like one of the opening scenes of the movie was it's like a pool, but there's no leaves on the trees or anything. And it looks all like kind of depressing, really. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't want to swim in that. But it gave a good opening feel of the movie, I think.
Well, and guess what? It's a metaphor, Mark. I just realized because the pool is representing the wealth. Because if you're wealthy enough to have this in-ground pool, yet it is desolate, and that's how her life is, because she looks wealthy and happy on the outside, but inside she's decrepit and dying.
That's true. It's true. And it wasn't just a pool either. It was like an infinity pool, and they lived right on this river, the banks of this river. So it was pretty awesome, pretty sweet house.
Now, if you remember, there's this scene early on about these sheep. And they're scared because a sheep is about to get slaughtered. So I just saw this little meme the other day, and it's about this sheep that escaped this farm, and they couldn't find it for 6 years. But then they found it, and it was so floofy, puffy. Its wool had grown so thick that it survived. And even though it had been attacked by wolves, they said, but they couldn't bite it because it was too fluffy. And it said, so sometimes to survive hard times doesn't mean you have to be tough. It just means you have to be floofy or something.
That's a good point. I will try to grow what hair I have left out in case somebody bites my head.
Oh, Lord. Okay, so also this woman's life. She is a housewife. Her husband works. She's being doing all the housekeeping, doing the cooking, all of that stuff. She's very styled to be a sort of a typical or stereotypical 50s housewife. And I just wanted to say, I'm so thankful that I live in a time where I can work, that's not frowned upon, and also where I can have hobbies and not be consumed by the pressures of being a housewife, quote unquote, because also, at the same time, I realize there's emotional labor and, women take on that burden a lot and whatever. But can you imagine? I can, and it would be horrific.
She had a really sad existence, really. You could just tell, her relationship with... So this guy's name's Richard. I'm just going to refer to him as Dick now because he's a dick. He just became, the CEO or, some top thing in his dad's company, which I'm sure he really earned, whatever, but
yeah.
And yeah, he's just rich, and she just stays home and basically doesn't do anything all day.
Now, we wrote about this condition called pica, which is you get a craving to eat things that are not food. We wrote about it in The Science of Women in Horror, our latest book. And it is experienced more by pregnant women scientifically, which is really interesting. And so typically it's like you crave and you want to eat dirt or chalk or like weird things like that. But this woman in this movie, she starts getting the feeling like she wants to swallow these objects. And she does eat some weird things too, but it's all about swallowing things.
I just realized that maybe that's why it's called Swallow.
Oh, Mark, come on.
I'm kidding.
Wow, this guy's an idiot.
No, I mean, I obviously realized that, but when you kept saying that, I wanted to really pound the point home. That's why it's called that.
Well, good. Oh, so the other interesting thing about this movie is that they set up, okay, the husband, he's pretty much a jerk. Like, we realize that, a dick, as Mark referred to him. Also, the mother-in-law is the worst, and the father-in-law. Like, they're just so concerned about looks and perception, like how they're being perceived by other people, and they just say some nasty things right to this woman's face. And they're all out to dinner, and her husband pressures her into telling a story, and the father-in-law totally cuts her off. It's like, dudes, you're all massive dickholes.
You could tell she came from like a lesser upbringing, and she didn't really maybe like belong or feel comfortable with these like more upper class, like rich people. I mean, that was pretty evident during that meal. It's like, tell the story. And she's like, yeah, this creepy, like homeless guy and whatever. But then she never even got to finish the story because the dad cut her off. But you could just tell how much different it was.
Yeah, it was absolutely evident. Now, it's interesting because she was watching this video one night about, birth, because she finds out she's pregnant, and she doesn't seem thrilled about it, but the husband's pretty happy. But she's watching this video about consuming placenta. And I know people do this, and so, that's cool if you do. I don't know. Some people bury it and grow a tree over it. I've heard all sorts of stories. We did not do anything with our placentas, but I remember a nurse asking me, like, oh, what do you want us to do with the placenta? And I'm like, nothing. Like, and she's like, well, I buried mine and I grew a tree. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry.
I requested the placenta for myself to eat, but they wouldn't give it to me.
No, that's not true. God. Okay, so this is also what I told Mark. I realized that, like, animals in nature, like, I remember our cat gave birth to kittens and ate the placenta, like, for energy. But sorry, I'm not going to eat my own placenta.
Yeah, that's just honestly very strange to me. Like, maybe there's science behind it too, but I couldn't get over like the thought of that. That's just I don't like it. So no thank you.
I know. No. Okay, when she swallows, sorry, do you want to say something?
Well, I just wanted to go back to the fact that when we found out she was pregnant, like when she took the test and found out it was positive, you could just see on her face how she wasn't happy about it at all. But her husband was ecstatic.
Oh, God, I know. And, like, how many women are in this situation where, I mean, they're in an unhappy marriage or unhappy relationship, and then because of that relationship or their own beliefs, they have to, follow through with this pregnancy, and it feels like they're trapped even further, because now they have this physical, emotional, and all of that tie to this abuser or person that they don't love.
Another thing that just showed how like bad the relationship was is, she's home all day by herself playing, what is that game called? Like Candy Crush or something. And then he finally comes home and they're eating dinner, and she has some like really profound thing about why she's happy about something and what she's going to do. And then the guy like stops her and he's like answering a work email. And the worst thing about it is that he didn't turn off his key clicks. So it's just like click, 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 click. So, I mean, not listening to your wife is one thing, but having key clicks on, that's next level bad, I think.
It was. And she truly was like, I want to get back to my art and like, you know, being this creative person, which yes, everyone should have a hobby and don't be all consumed by being a wife or a mother. We've talked about this on so many episodes, Meg and I. So yes, I agree. Now she decides she wants to start feeling something. I mean, I think she's bored. She doesn't love her husband. Her husband absolutely doesn't love her. She wants to be an artist. You know, she is clinically depressed, but she swallows this thumbtack because she wants to feel something. And I think that, you know, I'm not a psychologist, but I think people, you know, start to become self-harmers because they want to feel something. So I get it, but here's my full disclosure. I could never do this. I could never start swallowing things because I have a hard time even swallowing pills. Like seeing her swallow stuff, like I can hardly swallow the pills I have to swallow every day.
Kelly literally has these tiny pills and she breaks them up into like half or 4 pieces. And then if anyone watches her try to swallow, she can't. So yeah, if, you know, for coping mechanisms or whatever, Hunter's doing in the movie, you couldn't do this.
Never. Okay, but speaking of pill swallowing, the greatest pill swallowing scene in movie history is Gary Oldman swallowing pills in The Professional. Mark, you probably don't know this movie as well as I do because I used to be obsessed with Gary Oldman and I owned a bunch of his movies and I would watch this all the time. I'm so obnoxious. But the way he swallows pills in that movie, it's very particular. Rewinders, you know what I'm talking about? Please tweet me. Please at me because it's so specific.
I know when we watched that movie, you showed me that scene. I can't remember what he did. He just like did it really quick or...
He does it very strangely.
Okay. But yeah, I remember you like called out that scene specifically. Like, this is the greatest scene in movie history. And it was very good. But yeah.
I've built it up too much now. I'm sorry. Okay, so yes, they're in Pittsburgh. They find out that she's been swallowing stuff because guess what? They do a sonogram and there's a bunch of stuff in her stomach.
I'm going to go back a little bit.
Yeah.
So the first thing at the dinner, right after she gets cut off from her story, like the ice in her glass, like almost starts moving around and almost like starts calling out to her. So she eats that and she's like crunching it and everyone's kind of looking at her weird. But then she's just home one day bored and she sees like a marble. So she decides to eat it and swallow it. And then I think in the next scene, you see her in the bathroom and she puts gloves on. And you're like, oh, I wonder if she like lost a baby or something. But then she pulls the marble out and then she like puts it in a special place. So she starts collecting these things that have passed through her body.
Oh, God. And you see her trophy case, quote unquote. It's just like a silver tray, you know, where you would store your jewelry or, you know, some fine things. And yet it's these things that she has swallowed. So it progresses from the marble to a thumbtack to what were the other things, Mark?
So I started writing down all the things and then it became too much. And they didn't show everything. But I got marble and then like a push pin. That was the second thing. And she like cut her tongue. But then she kept going. She kept doing it. And then she actually got that out of her own stuff, too. A battery. She was eating the pages out of a book. A chess piece. I'm not sure which one. It might have been like a pawn. It might have been, I don't know. I don't think it was the horse, the knight. It might have been like a rook or something. Anyway, a lock, a safety pin, a jack, and a clothespin. And then later in the movie, she was eating dirt, which Kelly says is like the most common thing that people eat.
And I also saw like a little statue too on like the end because it almost seemed like it progressed from smallest to largest. And then we saw things that didn't come out and they were stuck in her abdomen or intestinal tract that they noticed during her ultrasound. And then, so that prompts her husband and in-laws to get her a handler, quote unquote. And she needs, you know, someone to watch her and make sure she's not swallowing things. And so they have this party. Was it his birthday or something? I can't remember what the party was for.
when all the dudes are there, or when all? I think that was his birthday. Yep.
So at that party, there's this woman. She's like the main character is trying to offer some hors d'oeuvres, and she's like, "Oh, I can't possibly eat anything because I'll have to puke it up or something." And then she's like, "Oh God, I'm so sorry." But it just reminded me of like how problematic and toxic diet culture is, and everyone is always just obsessing over what they're eating and what they weigh, and it's just so toxic.
Yeah, sorry, I got distracted. There's a large group of people walking outside right now, but they're practicing pretty good social distancing. But it's a group of about, I'd say 15 to 20 younger people. So anyway, that distracted me for a second. But yeah,
that's too many, by the way. That's too many people to be together, even though they're 6 feet apart.
They're outside, and there's like little groups of like two or three, but they're kind of far apart. Anyway, yeah, I think what you just said is that they revealed that he had been telling people at work.
I didn't say that yet.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, but he had been telling people at work about her eating these things, and she was not happy about that.
No, because that's like her business to tell and not his. And that was so awkward. And, obviously that's going to drive her to continue to swallow more things, which it did. We get a little bit of backstory here. We find out that, oh my God, because she's under the bed. She crawls under the bed and she's like crying. And her handler crawls under there too and is like, "Oh, your husband's not going to like this." Doesn't she reveal it to him that her mom was raped and the guy who raped her did time? But that guy who raped her biological father, was in prison, and her mother was a right-wing fanatic. And so she kind of, messed her up because of that. And,
she revealed that to the psychologist.
Oh, that's right. I feel like she had like a moment though with the guy under the bed too.
She did. They were like I don't know, just like laying under the bed together. Mm-hmm. I don't think they were even talking, but maybe this is when he said this, because his name was like Loe or something, and he was from like Eastern Europe and like some war-torn country, and he said it's tough to have like a mind problem when you're in a war, like when you have like bigger problems, you can't have these quote-unquote smaller problems. And I kind of feel like that's happening now with like this COVID stuff. Yes. Like maybe like your problem of like you don't like your hair or something, like maybe that's kind of gone out the window. I don't know.
Mark, that's really profound, and it's true because I think what he's saying and what we are experiencing currently is things, the focus gets shifted, and it's like, okay, actually this thing that I thought was a big deal isn't a big deal, or the thing that I normally do, well, I'm not doing it anymore, and guess what, it's still okay.
That's why I think when you're in middle school or high school, like every little like social thing is like the biggest deal in the world, like do these people like me or whatever, but then you become an adult and like you have bills, you're married, you have kids, you have all these other things going on, or like bigger things to occupy your mind, so you're usually not like focused on these smaller things like Hunter was, I guess.
Yeah, true. Now, speaking of the therapist, that is who she revealed all this business to. Her husband made an agreement with the therapist, which is 100% not ethical, but she overheard her husband talking to the therapist and revealing this stuff. And like, what a betrayal of trust. Like, are you kidding me?
You should literally lose your license over this. Like, you cannot break that doctor-patient confidentiality. Like, honestly, that's just terrible, because they got her to trust this, I don't know if it was a psychiatrist or psychologist, and then she overheard them, telling everything about how she was the product of this rape and stuff. So I think that was her whole thing was like her self-worth was like that she was a product of this rape, and that like her dad or no one really wanted her, so she had like no self-worth, I think.
Yes, and like what a thing to have to work through, and try to work through honestly with the first person in your life that you feel some trust with, and then she betrays you to your husband who's abusive.
Yeah, man, yeah, she wasn't going to confide in her husband. Like, honestly, I didn't even see these two people together. Like, I don't know why they were together. They didn't really have any chemistry or anything. But, yeah, and later in the movie, she called her mom. I think her mom was just kind of whack. Like, she's like, Mom, I really want to see you. Yeah, come over. Oh, no, your sister's here with the baby. Oh, there's no room for you. You can't come over. So that was pretty sad. So she really had nobody in her life. Like, her actual dad was in prison. Did she have like a stepdad though, I think?
Yeah, but that also was problematic, I think. And so, I mean, it was just bad news all around.
Just some examples of how her husband was an a-hole. Like, he told people all about her problem, her eating stuff when she didn't want to, and then she was sad about it, and he's like, don't ruin my birthday. Like, come on, dude.
God, that's something that somebody on Vanderpump Rules would say. Actually, they've said it multiple times. But, it's just like, oh, really? That's the most important thing? And then also one night after work, she's pregnant already by this point, and he just brings all of these douchebags home, and this guy has the audacity to come in and, like, ask for a hug. And she's like, I'm married, like, to your coworker. And he's just like, no, I just need a hug. It was just gross.
That was a very interesting scene because, like, I didn't feel like, it sounded creepy, but the guy really didn't want any more than a hug. But then when they actually hugged, like, she really, like, finally felt something. And, like, she really, like, got into the hug. And you could tell, like, that's really what she needed. And that she wasn't getting that from her husband. So I thought that was super interesting.
But then also at his birthday, her husband's birthday, she saw the same guy asking another woman for a hug. So it's kind of like his line, like his pickup line,
That's a very strange pickup line. But if that's all you're looking for, it's probably going to work. And doesn't she... Who does she hug later in the movie? Her actual, well, I don't know if we want to get into that right now, but yeah, she ends up meeting her dad who was in prison for rape, and he's kind of like turned his life around, but she pretty much gets all this
baggage.
Yeah, she like unloads all her baggage and has this great conversation with him about, am I worthless? Am I like you? Why did you do this and all that? So that was a great scene we can probably talk more about.
Yeah, I agree. Now, we have to say she escapes. Like, they are about to commit her and have her give birth to this baby under watch. But she is like, I have to go to the bathroom, and her handler helps her escape. Like, this man is the unsung hero of this movie. He is just like, oh, she's in the bathroom, but he helped her escape. So I loved that.
I just thought of this now when you were saying that, but this whole thing kind of reminds me of like Handmaid's Tale, where she almost seems like a prisoner in this family, in this marriage thing, and like all they really want out of her is a baby. Like, they don't really care about her, and she needs more, and she's just trying to get out of it.
Truth. It is like Handmaid's Tale. Good point. Now, she ends up running to a road and hitchhiking. Mark, have you ever picked up a hitchhiker in your life? And I asked you while we were watching this movie, would you now? If I saw a woman hitchhiking, I probably would. If I saw a man hitchhiking, like I was alone, no. But what is your hitchhiking history?
So every time I see a hitchhiker, I kind of feel like bad, like I should help them, but then at the same time, I'm like, what if they like just try to kill me and steal my car? So, but usually, like, I have, other kids in the car. We have a full car, and we really couldn't fit a hitchhiker anyway. But I did pick up a hitchhiker once, not really by choice. I was driving back from my friend Tim Tripp's cabin north of Grand Rapids, Minnesota, and it was myself and Campbell in the car. It was Super Bowl Sunday. I remember it like it was yesterday. So we were driving back to watch the Super Bowl, and these people, it was, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and these snowmobilers are, like, in the middle of the road, like, flagging me down. I'm like, God, did somebody, like, crash or something? And they're like, this guy's snowmobile broke down. Can you bring him back to town or whatever? And I'm like, kind of had no choice in the matter. And so the guy gets in the car, and it's probably like a 30-minute drive still back into town. And the guy's telling me all this stuff about snowmobiles, and I'm not like a super mechanical guy or anything. So he's like, yeah, the axle rod pin broke and did all this. I'm like, yeah, I hate when that happens. And then in a kind of related note, I had not put my my license plate tabs on my license plate yet, but I had purchased them. So, and it was past the month or whatever. And so as I was coming into town, a cop passed me going the other way. And then I looked in my rearview mirror and he turned around and he ended up pulling me over. So I think the only time I had a hitchhiker in my car, I got pulled over for a cop for having expired tabs. I don't think I got a ticket. I think he just told me to put them on there, but it was kind of embarrassing.
What the heck? That was a journey. That was not just a story. It was a journey.
And the best part of the story is that I was supposed to pick up your sister and William from Hibbing. And they were like really mad at me that I was late. So.
Wow. Okay. That was definitely a journey. Now okay, go ahead.
Have you picked up a hitchhiker?
No.
Have you ever been a hitchhiker?
No.
Are you planning on doing either?
No. So she ends up calling her husband from a cell phone. And I was like, she needs to break that cell phone, Better Call Saul style, which Giancarlo Esposito did the other night.
Gustavo
did the other night in a Better Call Saul. So that's not a spoiler. Like, you've seen cell phones break on Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul before, but, don't let anybody trace you. But apparently it was fine because, she wasn't traced.
So, yeah, after she escaped, she hitchhikes to this, like, really crappy motel. And she sees some dirt, like, in this flower bed. So she brings dirt into this motel, and she puts it on the bed, and she's eating it. I just thought that was very unsanitary.
Oh, it's so unsettling. It's just like, ooh. And also, like, just a cheap motel. And I've watched enough Hotel Impossible and Hotel Hell episodes to know that, like, that sort of bedspread doesn't get washed, and if you put a black light on it, it would not be pretty.
Yeah, I would not recommend doing that. And then I don't know how much we touched on the conversation she had with her husband, but at first he was like, I love you, come back, everything will be fine. And then when she basically says no, he turns into a huge dick. And he's like, I'm going to hunt you down and find you and all this stuff. So, yeah, the guy, you could just tell the whole time this guy's just a douchebag. But he really, really showed his true colors like there, I thought.
Oh, absolutely. Now, P.S., her dad is played by Dennis O'Hare from True Blood and American Horror Story fame. So that was a nice little kind of cameo because there was the only scene he was in. Now, this end sequence, she goes into this public restroom, and we see that she basically she's had an abortion, or she's lost the baby. And I thought this showing her choose abortion is the step that the Invisible Man movie, spoiler alert, didn't take. And it was pretty powerful and like pretty feminist and like pretty like she does not want to have a child with this man, and also her having his child will actually only put her in more danger because she's trying to outrun him. I don't know. What do you think, Mark?
Another thought that literally just hit me. Her mom had a baby as a product of similar kind of circumstances, which was her, and then she decided not to have the baby. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yes, because she knows that being raised and growing up with this stigma of, you know, unintentional or unwanted pregnancy might have an effect on that child. So, like, wow, it's so layered and so much more than it was. I really applaud it for tackling these really hard-hitting issues.
I agree 100%. Like, you think it's just about, you know, somebody who eats stuff, but it's a lot more than that. So I thought the actress did a great job. I really liked her look. Like, she was kind of like a blank look a lot of the time, like a very mysterious, like troubled look. And I thought she kind of looked like Renee Zellweger a little bit. So, yeah.
No, I thought it was great. Now, Mark, let's rank this movie on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 being you hated it, 10 being you think it's a perfect movie. What should our scale be? The first thing she swallowed? Or...
I was I thought it'd be easy to pick. Probably like the marble, that's the first thing. I'm like, yeah, it'll be one of the things she eats, but then she just starts eating everything. And I forgot to mention this earlier. Her nurse, Louis, or however you say his name, like has to pat. She's like, I'm just going to the bathroom. And he has to like pat her down to make sure she has nothing to eat. So he pats her down, but then she goes in the bathroom and she's got like this stash, like somewhere underneath the toilet with all...
Like a drug addict.
Yeah, it was like a drug addict with all this stuff. And she like got it and she ate something and then she felt like good. So
I think it was like a little tiny screwdriver. And remember, she was like at one... Yeah, and she ended up having to go to the hospital over that one.
Yeah. Oh. She upped the ante big time. Ugh. Yeah, don't swallow screwdrivers. It's like kind of like a cry for help, though, too, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. So, Mark, what's our scale then?
I'm gonna have to go with the push pin. I thought that's really when things escalated. Like the ice and the marble were like kind of like experimenting around, but bringing a push pin through your entire like digestive system is aggressive, I think.
I agree. How many push pins do you give Swallow?
I'm going to give it 9.5 push pins. I don't know why I'm not giving it the last 0.5, like maybe just the plastic part, not the metal part. But no, I really thought I've always said this. When you know nothing about a movie, it's like the best, especially when it's good. And so I knew nothing about this except that she eats stuff. But yeah, it really was really different. I don't know. It just made you feel things that, a lot of horror suspense type movies don't make you feel. Made you think about things like being the product of a rape and like a mom who chose to still have you and how that would affect your whole life. I thought the acting was really good, especially by I can't remember her name now, but whoever played Hunter. So no, I strongly recommend the movie.
Now, we rented it on Amazon, I think, but you can rent it on YouTube as well. I recommend it. Guess what? I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. Like, I am going that extra 0.5, and that's okay that you didn't. Yeah. But I really enjoyed it, and I was pleasantly surprised. Knew nothing about it. I hadn't even heard of it before, so thank you for bringing it to my attention.
Some people make fun of Yahoo, but it got us to see this movie, so that's good.
Well, that's a shout out. You can sponsor the next episode, Yahoo.
By the way, I do not use Yahoo as a search engine. I just go there and look at stuff. So
okay, we won't judge you anymore, I guess.
I use Bing for my search engine.
No, he does not. Listen, Rewinders, we hope you are well. Send us your recommendations of what to watch because obviously we're all looking for things and I can't wait to watch the next thing that I haven't heard of yet. So until next time, we'll see you scrolling through the horror section.
Bye.